What up?
Hey,
what up?
hey,
what up?
What's up?
We are
What's
in
up?
a multi-billion-dollar studio here in Upper East Side Manhattan.
Very sophisticated.
All three of us on the love seat. My name is Jordan. Emma Viglin.
Andrew Jones right here.
Why did I talk for you? That's so
Oh
sexist
my
of me.
God.
You can say who you are.
Well, you're a Bernie bro, so.
Oh, right. So,
Insinuation.
first of all, let us know if you can hear us, if you see us well. Sam Siegel on the camera,
Double S.
not doing his job as per usual.
Come on, man. He is doing his job quite well.
This is going to be a spectacular event. This is going to be huge. It's better than the Super Bowl. It's better than the finale of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Is that still on?
For this year's
It
edition?
is. I'm sorry guys to disappoint you, but I actually do watch that, and I really hope that she picks Eric, but
It's been captivating. Even if I watch the clips and not the show, the clips have been captivating for me.
very, very interesting stuff this season.
Yeah,
I
okay.
actually think it would be really interesting if there was like a political Bachelor. That it's like...
They would never do that. It's like all about like how fluffy can you make it, and I just drink wine with my friends and watch it.
That's true.
Yeah.
We're
We're
gonna
Evan Duran in the past. So.
Well, we'll shoot the crap because apparently I'll be demonetized if I say a curse word. We'll shoot the shizit for a couple seconds. Get the viewers up for a second, real quick. How much have you worked versus played this summer so far?
Myself?
Mm-hmm.
A little bit of a mix.
Did you see Hillary or any of her friends when you vacationed up there in Martha's Vineyard?
I did not. We are not like the bougie Martha's Vineyard. But we have a pretty small section. It's my stepfather's place, so I don't want to reveal too many personal details.
She was in Martha's Vineyard. She definitely was down the block from Hillary.
You just putting all the info up there.
Don't listen to her.
Damn.
And what about you, homie?
Well, I mean, what's your definition of play? I mean, there's very different sorts of definition of play. Whether play basketball or play with some of peoples or just
Play at the beach with me.
Well, very, very true. That has been the case, but it's been a variation of good social play and also working to provide you guys competency and not to watch cable horrible news and centrist terrible sources. So yeah, that's why his beard is trimmed, y'all. Look at his beard right now.
Trim my beard.
He's got it trimmed.
Some of you don't like when I trim it down here though, so whatever. Anyway, we good on audio? We good?
Yep.
Alright, so first thing to discuss, and the reason we're all together is because we do our things separately. We don't have a studio yet in New York City, but I figured, you know what? It's good to get three progressive minds together. Don't let them fool you. We're not neoliberal. We're not establishment. My George Soros check got lost in the mail. We are capital P progressive. And oh my God, I look so fat.
I'm just
Look at
trying to
that
make
gut.
sure the stream looks good.
So that's the shirt making me look like that.
It's us on the couch making sure you don't look at all enlarged.
Right.
You look
So
confused.
I want to discuss something that Roseanne DeMoro, she's the executive director of National Nurses United.
Capital P progressive.
She said something to me this morning that I think is a good jumping off step.
Exclusive.
Exclusively to me, should Medicare-for-all be the new litmus test for the Democratic Party? And yes, that is another code for purity test. All those establishment jerks who say, oh, you and your purity test, like covering the wide section of America that's literally, begging there for quarters to pay their deductibles, pay their $10,000 hospital bill, like the fine lady in Kentucky I just spoke to, Paula, a nice TYT viewer, paid off her student loan debt, but she has $10,000 of hospital debt just because her baby was born at 7 months. She has health insurance. So that's our health insurance system. And by the way, $10,000 bill from the hospital, that's small compared to everybody else.
Yep.
So to me, I want to get you guys in, 46% of Republicans now say they're for Medicare for all. If you dumb it down for them and call it something else, you might get over 50 by 2018. You have an incompetent president, an incompetent Republican Party, besides the fact that they're awful and extremists. So, all right, we had the town halls of Republicans trying to stop Trump care. I agreed with that. Obamacare is not my personal choice, but it's better than what they're proposing. Is now the time to be knocking on Nancy and Chuck and all the usual suspects' door, and not like kindly asking for Medicare for all, but demanding it.
Like, okay, so let's just talk about how much more progressive, honestly, the House is than the Senate. So it's pulling teeth to get endorsements for Medicare for all in the Senate. But over, I think it's, over 100, that's the conservative estimate. It's either 113 or 130. I'm mixing it up, co-sponsors for Medicare-for-all in the House. Tulsi Gabbard added herself on, and there's been a lot. John Conyers has fought the good fight on that issue for a really long time. But the Senate is pulling teeth. You have Bernie led that fight. Elizabeth Warren has been vocal on the issue. Then you have a surprising Kirsten Gillibrand here in New York. You know, who would have thought Gillibrand joins on for Medicare for all?
When she said that, I think she thought she heard Medicare for all bankers, but that might be it. Yeah.
No, look, we'll take it, right? We'll take it at this desk. We're happy.
And by the way, I've been critical of Elizabeth Warren, so she deserves credit. She came out loudly and strongly for Medicare for all.
Yeah. And I mean, now we're talking Jeff Merkley of Oregon has been sort of vocal, and then I mean, so I got some backlash about this on Twitter. Kamala Harris said something sort of that she liked in principle Medicare for all, but said, you know, couch it in a bunch of caveats. So it doesn't matter. The Senate needs to catch up to where the American people are, because honestly, the Democrats in the House really are on board. And if we have a progressive president in 2020, because honestly, at this point, Trump, if he continues down this path, I feel like a baked potato could beat him. But you know, I should keep my fingers crossed. Then we actually could get this through. So the time to ingrain it in the American people's heads and minds and hearts, Medicare for all is now, and I think that progressives recognize this.
And as Jordan mentioned now earlier, is that how it's expanding from progressives to now regular Republicans all across the country who understand that, hey, maybe government actually is a good thing. And that government, Medicare and Medicaid, they are actually government items that we actually love. So our whole ideology of saying, oh, bad government, we can't trust the government, free marketplace, that idea is getting eroded fast on healthcare with how unmanageable it is. No matter if you try to then have the insurance companies have or consider them to be honest brokers and restructure a whole bill around them so that they can survive and let WellPoint and Max Baucus write the whole bill. So you have a lot of people, even across, who are non-liberals or progressive, who are seeing the light on this issue. And then you have Al Gore out of nowhere, like the other night at Manhattan Borough College, he had a full speech saying that on stage that it's time for us to have single-payer Medicare for all, and that the private industry has proven incapable of providing affordable coverage for regular Americans. And Al Gore saying that now, of course, Al Gore, he's completely away from the now Democratic mainstream cool people's table, like for a long time and whatnot. I mean, he's almost near even Jimmy Carter status in regards to how people in the mainstream Democratic elitist world try to view him and try to diss him ridiculously as the hacks that they are. But if he's saying that with his still status source overall, his still stature, then it's right there of a common sense move to make. Like, there's no arguing about it.
Hell yeah.
Unfortunately, though, is that besides even those figures in the House, like Nancy Pelosi, or Standing Lawyer, or when he was in the House, or just or having those prominent figures in the House still try to be on the fence about pushing it and being enthusiastic for it, you have still most of the Senate and mainstream Democrats wanting to have it both sides, and how we bring with both Kirsten Gillibrand and with Kamala Harris, who say, oh, we support it, but then we got to work out the funding mechanisms. We got to work out these things.
Right.
And it's a similar argument or similar thought process that happened with California, with their whole issue in Sacramento, when they seemed that they wanted to pass Medicare for all when Governor Schwarzenegger was governor and pushed it on his desk only for him to veto it. But when Governor Brown is governor, and how he's went and reversed his position on Medicare for all and now been wishy-washy about it and how he doesn't want it. And then you have the likes of Anthony Rendon and those in Sacramento who just stopped the whole process from happening. Didn't even want to think about funding it.
Well, also, let's just say David Sirota, our very own David Sirota, has done some excellent reporting, as per usual, on Jerry Brown receiving tons of donations, an influx of cash as this bill was going through in the state of California. So it's real time someone being bought and their position being bought.
Yep.
I want to say three things. Number one, I need Medicare for all just for my gut. Like, I don't know if it's the shirt or I'm just getting fat, but this is not appropriate.
It's that watermelon beer, people. We're trying to get them off of it.
So Jordan has a horrible taste in alcohol for everyone watching.
Right.
Tell them what you like to drink.
I love watermelon. Sam, get me a watermelon beer. I like watermelon beer, Montauk beer, it's called. I do like a good Mike's Hard Lemonade occasionally. I like Jack Daniels. That's pretty manly.
By the way, Jordan is having to pay Sam for a service. Free
product placement. Montauk watermelon. It's delicious. I'm not going to drink right now. I don't want to give you the wrong idea that I'm a drunk. But I want to say, secondly, to my dearly departed grandmother who just passed, you just said affordable, like my Jewish grandmother, so that warmed my heart.
It's the New York accent. It crosses racial barriers sometimes, people. It really does. These
racial and religious, because you sound like an old Jewish lady.
These Northeast accents, Boston, Philly, DC, they tell you racial lines. Sometimes it's like, wow.
And lastly, before we get back to Medicare, share this video now on Twitter, on Facebook, press the share button, because we want to get views up, we want to get interaction up, so that I could go to Cenk Uygur and say, hey Cenk, you see this trifecta here? Maybe we should do this on the reg. Maybe we should do this more regularly. So make sure you press the share button, get it out. So I want to read you a few things. Number one, you had mentioned Merkley, who is the Oregon senator. He was the only senator who endorsed Bernie during the campaign. So he basically said on CNN, what I'm hearing, even in these conservative parts of my state, that I lost by 30–40% when I was running for re-election, what I'm hearing is the system is way too stressful, he said. I've been asking each audience, I've been saying, how many people here 10 years ago would have supported a single-payer Medicare for all? And it's a small number. And then I ask, how many now? And the hands just go out throughout the room. That jives with when I was on the campaign trail. I can't tell you when I was at Trump rallies how many people I would ask, who else, if you weren't voting for Trump, who would you vote for? I expected Cruz or Carson or one of these circus clowns. They said Bernie Sanders. So honestly, the corporate media, when they talk about Medicare for all, now they're pushing this nonsense $32 trillion statistic that it's going to cost. That's not true. But they talk about it like Hillary Clinton talked about. Right, but how are you going to pay for it? They don't exactly ask that. How are you going to pay for the $54 billion for the defense budget? Yep. But I'm just, if you get away from the corporate media and you're actually out in the country talking to Republicans, if you call it socialism, they'll back away because there's a negative connotation. But if you call it Medicare for all, if you say, oh, your deductibles will go down, your high copays will go down, all this, people like it.
Well, let's just talk about how this right-left paradigm that is so paramount in Washington is so irrelevant in the country.
Preach it.
So, this is what. So we're talking about John Ossoff, right? You know, the most embarrassing, stupid campaign that he run, where he said, you know, I'm not for Medicare for all. I'm just not for it. And that means that you're running towards the center in Washington. But in America, it's not center. Look at the polling. You know what defines left and right? Polling. Like, issues that are right and left in Washington are not right and left in the populace of America. What people like is populism. And that's what Bernie and Trump falsely represented. So they just can't get their minds around it, and they also can't get their wallets around it. Because the big pharma industry is this, you know, makes up, or I think healthcare is 1/6 of the American economy. And what those health companies do is they funnel their money into representatives and senators, and they say, do this for me.
Talk about what happened in California.
What do you mean?
So in California, I believe it was a ballot measure to get cheaper drugs in California.
I mentioned that a little earlier.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, big pharma funneled the most progressive state in the country. Funneled the money.
Full splash.
Right. My man Jones.
Yeah, and you know what's funny is that, you know, before we started this live segment, we had our disaster in chief out there still showing his public tears about how their disaster care plan blew up in their faces because it was either too insane for the centrists, like whether it was Capital or Susan Collins, or it was just not crazy enough for the crazies like Mike Lee and Rand Paul. So, you already had him try to bring out the angle of Democrats are trying to push single payer and trying to demonize single payer as how any Senate Republican or Fox News obsessed person would be watching or would be saying, and trying to keep on that bogeyman image. But he's also trying to dare Democrats to support Medicare for all because he unfortunately has a feeling that a lot of Democrats out there know that they won't want to back Medicare for all right now because of how they're still beholden to the Aetnas and the WellPoints, Cignas, and the pharmas of the world. And you saw when Bernie Sanders had his bill earlier this year that he was trying to push through the Senate to again go at the pharmaceutical companies, that you had a lot of prominent Democrats, not only the Cory Bookers of the world who are the standard hacks, and we always get on him with his desperate celebrity pushes and embarrassing sponsored or scheduled tweets, but you had even someone like a Patty Murray who's like taking, unfortunately, money from pharmaceutical companies and who voted against that bill.
Nice lady. That seems sweet.
Exactly.
Why would you do this?
Yeah, you know, like something that goes completely under the radar. But she went and voted against it. And it's fighting that whole battle in that front there. And it's funny you mentioned with Jeb Merkley. And my thing with Jeb Merkley a bit is that when he was the only senator that backed Bernie Sanders, he did it around March and April, or really like late in the primary process. And for me, I thought he really did that as the person that was supposed to be the conduit to be for all the senators. It's like, hey Bernie, if it's getting late in the process, maybe you should think about, you know, dropping out or whatnot. Where instead of like supporting him like early from the beginning or whatnot. And then Jeb Merkley, again, he's a very nice person or whatnot, but I took his support of Bernie Sanders with a grain of salt on the issue. And I wish he was just as vocal on Medicare for all, or fully adamant in terms of being showing the favor that Bernie's had, and a few other people. And now Al Gore publicly like this is done in such a way to make the Aetnas and WellPoint bosses piss and really be out there all the way on it. So
yeah, it's a lack of nerve. You know, that's what it is. I think on his side.
Yeah.
Well,
Shall we transition?
No, 1 second. I want to make sure you guys have what Roseanne DeMoro told me. If you don't know Roseanne DeMoro, she's the executive director, National Nurses United. She basically, I believe, was in charge of the People's Summit, which a lot of you watching went to or were interested in. So I reached out to her this morning saying, hey, do you think, you know, with Trump care seemingly dying, should progressive politicians now shift to applying pressure on the corporate Democrats to not just talk about, all right, now let's work to make Obamacare better, but pushing for Medicare for all. Obviously, we know it's not going to pass while President Trump is president, but should the narrative change? Her quote to me, they should move from resist to insist on Medicare for all. This is a no-brainer. We've tried market-based approaches that have failed with the exception of Medicare, and tinkering with the system isn't going to heal it. Progressives should make single-payer a litmus test. So I ask you, before we move to another topic, should the candidates, the progressive candidates, whether it's Justice Democrats, Green Party, whoever it is that are progressive, should that be the #1 issue that they are primarying corporate Democrats in for 2018, Medicare for all?
I see no reason it shouldn't be, along with if you want to also put the Wall Street purity test as well, because that is where the base of the party is, and it's going to grow. It's going to grow in regards to that support, not only with the base of the party, or at least the real progressives in the party, but again, with getting those independents who are fed up with partisan ways, but who see the effectivities of some things like having a Medicare for all system, or who thinks that backing Wall Street every time is a bad idea, and having to see annoying commercials from Bank of America or Chase or Citi Bike in this city with Citigroup and marketing all over, and we're tired of those things. That's going to have a broad populace with regular people. And Democrats will always win when they have regular people who turn out, because the numbers and the base numbers for supporters are going to always be there if they turn out for candidates that are going to be about the people and are not about the interests of affluent people that they should be avoiding at any time. They should be avoiding this. This is the way of not only here in this country things are trending to, but in many parts of the world, especially if you look, of course, with everything that happened with Jeremy Corbyn, and of course with Mélenchon and France having to do with Macron's nonsense and how he's not backing him. Yeah. It's just a sensible thing to do, and why it's a justified thing to have that be a purity test idea. Now, maybe some people may have other solutions in regards to thinking, okay, maybe we'll get a public option or come close to it, but the baseline for this clearly should be a government-run system for someone to support, and it's not unreasonable to ask that to be a purity test to me.
I agree.
And real quick, if you didn't watch, you should watch the video. The Young Turks just did it. I interviewed a young woman in Kentucky. She is a mother of an 11-month-old child born premature at 7 months. Her husband works, she doesn't, because daycare for the kid, honestly, is more expensive than whatever she could make on the job, so it doesn't make sense for her to work. So she stays at home with her child. As I said in the beginning, there's more viewers now, so I want to make sure you know. She literally gave birth at 7 months. Her son had to be in the NICU for 2 months. She had pregnancy-related issues. That was a $10,000 bill right there, just for that. On top of her student loads, on top of the gas bill. It's not possible. Progressives and normal people are not making enough money. And by the way, $12,000 in student loans is one of the smaller debts I've heard. I've heard anywhere from $3,000 to $500,000 covering the campaign and talking to people. So it's not sustainable, and that's why, by the way, John Idarola made a great point on the show. He said, when Republicans like to talk about freedom, how free are you? How free are you to pursue entrepreneurship or a business or whatever you want to pursue if you are literally straddled with debt? You're not free.
The average, by the way, is $33,000. That's the average student loan debt in America.
Right.
So but it's the avocado toast that's not allowing people to buy homes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we should focus.
I'm over that.
And we should focus more on snorting chocolate than water contamination. I digress.
Yeah. Chuck Schumer.
Moving seamlessly.
Segue.
Moving seamlessly. I don't like going so heavy on 2020 because it's 2017, and I think the corporate media focuses on too much. But I do want to focus on a poll that just came out. Emma did a video on it this morning. If you don't know, in a poll that was just put forth, Bernie Sanders still crushing Trump. Let me give you the numbers.
I have it right here.
Okay.
Joe Biden actually does better. Let's just I'll give you the facts.
I think it's rigged. Go ahead.
I'll give you the facts, guys. Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are the top two people against Trump, 54 to 39, and Bernie is winning 52 to 39. So Bernie, that's 13 points. Joe Biden, that's math, 15 points. So they're both doing extremely well. The two oldest candidates being considered, Joe Biden is 1 year younger than Bernie Sanders, so that entire talking point completely dismantled. If the establishment decides to back Joe Biden, they can't say a goddamn thing about Bernie being too old, because they are the same age, except by 1 year, and just because Joe Biden has great teeth doesn't make him younger. So that's just really all there is to it. But continue. Elizabeth Warren also does well, 49 to 42.
So, a few things. Warren's 49-42, like she said. Booker, 45-40. Kamala Harris, which we'll get to, 41-40. And Mark Zuckerberg.
Margin of error for Kamala Harris, but people, no name recognition yet for her, honestly.
So wait, you mean to tell me that poll did not include Dwayne Johnson or Caitlyn Jenner having a virtual matchup?
Just let me bang my head against the wall if a celebrity runs. I'm so annoyed.
We're in that state now.
Kanye's running. Before I move on, I just want to read a few comments. Why are people watching this? Piss off. TYT and their token black guy. He's not the token black guy. He's the token Jewish guy. We just established he talks like a New York Jewish grandmother.
That's right.
You mean they didn't have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in the polls? Correct. We had a few.
Who wrote that? Someone? We're on the same page. Whoever that was.
Thunderman.
Tell him, Jordan. They said a lot of people have talked about that they like what we're doing right now and they want to see more of it. And somebody asked about the Medicare-for-all March, which I should have said. So there's a Medicare-for-all March in D.C. on July 27th. It's called Millions Marching for Medicare for All. Let me get you the details. 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So July 24th, which is a Saturday, from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock, the National March will be on the West Lawn. I guess it starts on the West Lawn of the Capitol grounds. So
at 3.
At 3 o'clock, I'm assuming TYT is going to cover it, so we'll figure it out. So what I want to get to is two things. Number one, I think with Biden, Biden's got a little bit of that Hillary Clinton while she was Secretary of State thing going on. Like Hillary Clinton was actually polling extremely, extremely highly when she was Secretary of State. I think if Biden ran, he was against the Bin Laden raid, he was for the Iraq war, he's taken money from all the usual suspects. I don't think Uncle Joe is going to be as clean and come off as well as people think.
But he's really likable, and let's just put that out there. And he has this kind of blue-collar thing about him. When he was that young in the Senate, he was the poorest guy in the Senate, much like Bernie was for much of his career. He's, I would say, I hate the word sellout because it's all that's yelled at me on Twitter all the time, but he did sell out a little bit. And I hate being from Jersey that he was so vocal about Phil Murphy.
Yeah, he was very, very vocal about that and how that was a stain on him and taking the money from when MBNA Bank is this big in Delaware. I don't know if it's still as big right now down there, but that was a thing that's always been on him. And I mean, he just had his career really resurrected by Obama choosing him as VP, and that has been the whole genesis of how people have thought, oh, he could be a prime presidential candidate. And he was trying to explore that idea in the last election when he was thinking about it, but he realized that he was going to not be as popular, or he thought that he was running into the process too late against Hillary to then re-energize that support that then she was getting from other sources that was part of the Obama faction. So that's why he didn't want to put his whole body in towards doing it, and that's why he decided late that he was against doing it. So I mean, it's just something that, again...
And Obama cleared the field for Hillary.
Exactly. So that's why it's something where he clearly is thinking that, okay, I can easily do a better job than this disaster in chief, but it's being in that bubble again and thinking that you can just have the base, let's go with you any single time they want. And this is not the 90s anymore. This is not 2000s. The base is not just going to support anybody that they see at the top of the ticket at all. And it's just something where once you see your glaring holes in your summary that you have, then it's going to be tough for him to even think about wanting to be a candidate and think he's going to survive the primary with how the party is now.
Right.
Do you want to hear more expert analysis like that? Apparently, Nidji Nit says, I think the rest of TYT gets a large enough platform, and TYT politics and others really deserve more of a platform. I didn't write it. I'm just reporting what they're saying. Anyway, I agree with that. So, let me get to Bernie for a second. Bernie has, if you haven't noticed, is becoming a little bit more playful with his talk on whether he's going to run.
Yes.
I won't get into details, but I know some people in the Bernie world. My sources tell me if Elizabeth Warren or somebody Bernie respects and thinks can win does not run, and his health allows it, he will run. I think Elizabeth Warren is going to run. Now, would you be happy if Elizabeth Warren runs as opposed? I know what Emma's going to think, but Elizabeth Warren runs as opposed to Bernie. Well, what I'm saying is he won't run if Elizabeth Warren.
Right.
If Bernie's healthy,
imagine how the debates would be on Twitter. Oh my God.
If Bernie's healthy,
it's so unfair.
if Bernie's healthy, should he run even if Warren wants to run?
Well, I mean, first I just say that if you believe that you can be a president or any public official in this country, no matter if you are clearly ill-advised to be a public official in this country, if you believe that you want to run at any time, you have full carte blanche, in my perspective, with that. If you feel, you make that choice. All right, so I'm gonna get that out the way and whatnot. In terms of if Senator Warren is in the race and he decides to run against her, I mean, you know, this is something where he can say, okay, like, we're still going to be friends in this whole process. We're going to be respectful for each other. But, you know, you can say that, oh, you backed Hillary and not me in terms of the last primary. And I just feel that there's probably more authenticity that he'll say that he still has, even though, again, that would be very a difficult, like, debate to have or the difficult discussion to have, where he'll may try to think that he can have, like, a full show a divide, at least with Senator Warren. The problem with that as well is the fact that both of them, at least on foreign policy issues, are almost still aligned or almost on that sort. Now, even Elizabeth Warren probably maybe even a little bit more hawkish than he is, or has a little more interest in foreign policy issues, which is like which is the real glaring issue for her, and that's why it's going to be like a real. I still have to think about how that's going to work out, because of how they still have their similarities, but still.
I think they're gonna have to work it out between the two of them. I mean, I think that's what. I don't think there's room for.
Because I would hate that.
Both of them.
I would hate it.
I would hate it too, and she would lose. She would definitely lose, and if it was her versus him, I'd vote him.
You think she would lose?
I think she'd lose in the primary with Bernie, 100%. I think the elderly thing is actually a more.
Emma is an apologist for Elizabeth Warren. Why?
You know, guys, I love you, but it's really, if you care about policy and you still bash Elizabeth Warren, then you don't know anything. Like you have to look at her legislative record. It's great. It's the second most progressive legislative record in the country. So I don't get caught up in what she did in the primary. I'm disappointed, and I've said that a bunch of times. But when you look at progressive records in the Senate, she is the second most progressive senator, and if you want anything done in this country, you can't just demonize someone like that. It's so unfair. She does not deserve it at all. At all. And I don't want that because it's disgusting, because it's watermelon. You're a man. Drink a beer.
What a sexist comment that was. Because I'm a man, I can't have a watermelon beer. I digress.
I like IPAs.
This is Long Island, New Jersey battle.
I agree with some of with some of what you said. By the way, the views are doing well. Share this video. I want to get to what is it like? What's that thing, like an auction? Like, bring me to 500. Bring me to 600.
Hey,
Can I just add that
share this, get it up. Go ahead.
Let me just add that her political instincts are really bad. Like that's what could cost her the presidency, because she is so deferential to the establishment. You know, Cenk did this interview with her, and he asked her, I think, some tough questions, and she shrugged. She just wants to talk about the Republicans, and she knows there's corruption in the Democratic Party. Like, remember she called out Mnuchin and said that he was doing illegal behavior, and Kamala Harris didn't prosecute him. She's not unaware of that fact.
Yeah.
But she's she's afraid to criticize Democrats in a way that Bernie is not, and that's why she's embraced and why he is not.
Well, could or you could think of one question on the top that in that interview that was like she couldn't want to give an answer that was pretty real. And,
when Bernie said, "What do you think of Joe Manchin?" I mean, Cenk said, "What did you think of Joe Manchin?" Someone like him who just is, so with Trump, voted with Trump 55% of the time, and she said, I like Joe. It's just like this politics. She's been there too long, man, and I think, again, we're talking about her personality. I could care less at this point about her personality, and I care so much about her voting record. The CFPB, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, is her baby. She created that, and no one else had the nerve to do that. And it's given billions of dollars back to consumers, and yet progressives online bash her constantly, despite that legislative accomplishment. And in my opinion, guys, it's BS. It's BS.
Now, I'm not going to get into it much because Emma and I have already had a very fiery debate on this.
Oh, that was also that should be another video.
We'll tweet out the link today if you never watched that. We had a debate.
Get out of here.
We had a debate on Elizabeth Warren. I'll say a few things. My issue with Elizabeth Warren isn't particularly on the policy totally, because I think by and large, there's no contest between her and Trump. There's no contest between her and Nancy Pelosi. There's just no contest. That's just a fact. She's definitely more progressive than just about anybody else. My problem is I want to know, and I think this is why Trump was able to elevate to the presidency, besides CNN giving him a nonstop, wet kiss. I want to know, can I trust you once you get into office? That's what I want to know. Because that's been the problem in our politics for as long as can be. Emma and I kind of disagree. I'm not really into the sausage making and all that stuff of politics. I want to know, is this person what they're saying on the campaign? Of course you have to compromise a little bit, but are they going to compromise their core values? And I don't know Elizabeth Warren's core values, because to me, I know economically she believes in tighter regulation on the banks. She believes in a progressive tax system. So I'm not that concerned about progressive economics with Elizabeth Warren. However, to me, it's not some small let's a do-over when you don't show up to the biggest progressive fight of the 21st century, which would have been endorsing Bernie Sanders. Who knows if Bernie would have won? I'm not going to lie to you and say. But this isn't about like a purity test for me. To me, if she is that calculating, she definitely calculated. WikiLeaks showed her team was setting up meetings with Hillary Clinton as early as 2014. Then I don't know if she were elected president, what else is she going to calculate based on? What else? It's okay to compromise. It's not okay to compromise our core values. The second thing is Elizabeth Warren, by the way, she shouldn't be held to a different standard. Let me tell you, if Cenk asked Bernie Sanders, what do you think of Joe Manchin? Bernie Sanders is not going to bash Joe Manchin. So we can't, because she's saying something that comes off political, Bernie doesn't go out and attack his fellow senators. So we've got to keep it consistent. I don't want to get off track too much about Warren, because we have two more topics.
My nose is going to bleed.
And I'm already seeing Emma get faint. Anything on what I said before we move on?
No, I mean, that's like just the only thing, and I really do like Elizabeth Warren as a person, especially having to see her campaign, Mr.
Someone
Pickup
just
Truck.
said Warren is corrupt. Look at her campaign finance records and then tell me why she is. Continue.
Yeah, like that's the thing where
There's nothing.
Where you want to have people have all the information before saying those things like that. But you know, I've seen her especially deal with Mr. Pickup Truck Scott Brown and wipe him off the floor, and to see her rise, and that was always a genuine thing that always stuck with me with her. But it was like just still seeing how she knows how to be politically cagey at times, but how she made sure that she wasn't going to come close to endorsing anybody when the Massachusetts primary was, and how close that was in that state. And I just felt that she had nothing to lose if she would have supported Bernie overall, because then she could have said, "Oh, I'll support Hillary later." Just like Merkley, if she felt that way overall.
This is what I'm saying
just
about
like,
her bad political instincts. I don't mean to cut you off, and we will move on, but I just think she's been in Washington, and she just thinks I have to suck up to these people. I do. I just genuinely think that's what it is.
And real quick, because we've gotten 2 questions that I've seen a lot. What do you think of Tulsi Gabbard, and what do you think of Kamala Harris? I personally like Tulsi Gabbard. I don't think she could actually win. I don't think, if it were against Trump, I think she could win a progressive primary. I don't know if she could win a general election, because what I've seen, and I like Tulsi Gabbard, but what I've seen, she doesn't have that like genuine, authentic it factor that a Bernie has, or a Nina Turner has.
And she also has a really questionable history on gay rights. It's like, look it up. It's bad.
And how she's very pro-hawkish, and I just felt that...
No, she's not hawkish. She's isolationist. For sure, she's the opposite of hawkish.
Well, I mean, in regards to like her, like maybe her in Hawaii, in regards to there was a big thing that she felt in regards to, I think, like her heritage, or it was like an issue with, I think, AEK. I wasn't sure. I have to remember, but that was like, like I just feel that I think that she felt more that she could get more by being part of Bernie's wave than the full genuineness when I see it from, say, Nina Turner, or when I see it from Congressman Stewart out in Washington, where I just felt that like she really hitched onto the wagon. And there's just a lot of things in regards to like her record that trouble me, honestly, to have her be heaped upon as like a real progressive force in my mind.
I'm not.
She also didn't join on for years to single payer. That's
right.
That's a fact.
Listen, the bottom line is she did take a courageous measure to leave the DNC.
Yeah.
She was the vice chair or something like that. And you know, for me, looking at her record, there are some things I'm worried about, but on the core things, I'm less worried. I actually think she'd be stronger whether you're looking at a vice presidential pick or like something lower level. I don't think
she could be I think she's good on foreign policy.
Yeah.
She could be some sort of like defense secretary or something interesting.
And lastly, to me, a few people asked about Kamala Harris. I'm always honest. I haven't looked at her donors full stop.
We have.
Totally. But I will say, Kamala Harris, from what I see, I'm a little suspect of her verbiage and the way she talks. It sounds a lot to me like the way Hillary Clinton talks. Like, oh, I'm for this if A, B, C, D, E, F, C, D, are met. Kind of like every statement I'm seeing from her is couched to satisfy different things. And to me, actions always speak louder than words. She was just in the Hamptons in private meetings with top Clinton donors.
She is Obama. That's who she is.
That this wonderful lady did this video on for sure about that. And it's the lawyerish background that she has. And again, with how, as you mentioned, when Dave Dion and The Intercept talked about how she didn't want to hold Steve Mnuchin accountable for what happened in California, and also how her stance was with the death penalty and trying to, similarly as Hillary Clinton, have it where I'm personally against it, or how Tim Kaine wanted to have it, but if it's the law and it has to go through, then it has to be administered. And that is, again, a big sticking point that is going to be an issue for a lot of progressives overall, is her having still that law authoritarian perspective on that.
But she did, and I mentioned this in my live, like how much she stood up to cops in San Francisco was great, you know. So I think she's a mixed bag. I think when you look at her donations to her Senate run, there's not Time Warner that's problematic, but it's not like you see like Cory Booker's, which is just like is this Mitch McConnell running? Like, who is this? Mixed bag. I just think she's Obama. Like, I think she's smart and seems more progressive than she would be, and has a legal background with a ton of credentials.
Here's the bottom line. This is the purity test, and I don't care what neoliberals say. Are you for Medicare for all? Are you for free public college tuition? And are you against fracking? I don't know the answer to any of those with her. And I don't know if she would be open about it, because when you're courting donors who are not for any of those things, you make up your choice. Are you going to go the Bernie model and be on the side of the people, or are you going to try to do it both ways, serve platitudes, and take their money? You can't do both.
And real quick, with her speaking at APAC like she did, and how she was hastily pandering the whole way, and it just was really not a good sign at all for any progressive bona fides. And that is, again, another issue in regards to how you feel about Palestine and whether you feel about Zionism. That's going to be also probably a factor for a lot of people as this continues to grow and grow with BDS movement.
Okay, moving on. We got two more subjects.
That camera's gonna die.
Okay, don't worry. Sam, give me the battery time on that camera. So
come on, Tim Cook. You're supposed to have this fixed by now. Steve Jobs gonna come down and slap you.
Oh, you can't check. All right. So if we die, we die. At least we die together. Now, I want to talk. I don't talk about Trump often on this channel because I can't offer anything unique. But I do want to kind of take a victory lap a little bit here, because if I recall, when I was covering the campaign, I even told people, his supporters, do you really think this billionaire plutocrat is going to really change Nafta? Or really make sure the TPP doesn't happen? I didn't. I told you so. Headline: Trump renegotiation of Nafta starting to look a lot like TPP.
And some dudes did some video of that. I did a coverage of that months ago, criticizing me, saying I was misrepresenting Trump on trade.
Right.
Like, dude, like...
You know, they're going to always come out of nowhere
I
told
you so.
I'll read you real quick. On the same day the Republican bid to overturn Obamacare failed, the Trump administration embarked on a bigger quest, resetting a global trade consensus that has preserved for over 4 decades. U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer released a set of negotiating objectives for the North American Free Trade Agreement. Under fast-track rules adopted in 2015, the administration must present these non-binding objectives to Congress before it can enter into negotiations. Essentially, I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but essentially, the starting negotiation is pretty much adopting quite a lot of language from the TPP, which Trump railed against on the campaign trail. So if the renegotiation is Nafta, and I give credit to Cenk, he said this might happen, it seems like he's trying to renegotiate Nafta to become more like the provisions that were in the TPP. I'm not going to BS you. I don't know the exact language, or I'm not an expert on the nitty-gritty of these trade deals, but I will say I've read multiple stories saying the Nafta renegotiation is looking a lot like TPP and other corporate written trade deals. So not that you as our audience need to be convinced that Trump is awful, but there are some Trump supporters who watch us. And they need to know you've been conned. You've been conned. Speaking of, Chapter 2 of my book, Corporate Con Job. Download right now, corporateconjob.com. Chapter 2, How the Corporate Media Welfare Complex Delivered President Trump. Download corporateconjob.com. And that was an obvious plug. Now, what do you think about this?
I mean, it's obvious. When you have corporatists in your cabinet, like, the guy didn't have any core principles to begin with. So it's so easily swayed. I mean, it's not unsurprising to me. I mean, I think there were 2 things that some progressives thought Trump might be better on, which was hawkishness. He's now almost outpaced Obama in civilian deaths in Obama's entire term in Iraq and Syria. So, yeah, hawkish. And 2, trade. Oh, wow, look, now he's renegotiating NAFTA to look like the TPP. Like, if people thought that Trump was going to be more progressive in certain areas than Hillary, that's not how it shook out, and that's not how you should have thought that way, because he's a moron. He's a buffoon.
If anybody that is regularly on fixed propaganda, which I call as Fox News, throughout the years, they have long gotten away from ever being called a liberal or a Democratic supporter and all that.
Yeah.
So, like, that whole idea of anyone trying to think that he was going to be out of nowhere to the left of some Democrats on some issues, it just was, you just couldn't see it from what he was and how he's a devoted Fox News watcher. He believes anything on that channel and anything from base conservative thought now. That is just what he is. So, with him trying to then have his way on trade that is now looking like TPP, he's always going to be about affluent people. He's always going to be about rich corporate interests first and foremost. And if you believe that in middle America, that he was for you and was going to bring back the jobs back all the way, that's why they are all laughing at you, unfortunately, because the signs clearly show that he wasn't going to do that. I mean, the beginning with the carrier deal. That carrier deal.
Wait, stop.
Yeah.
This was my next segue.
Mm-hmm.
Carrier Corporation plans to lay off 300 employees at its Indianapolis furnace factory Thursday. Well, not they're getting laid off.
Oh shit, sorry.
Yes, and the timing is likely to raise some eyebrows. The previous announced layoffs coincide to the day with the 6-month anniversary of Donald Trump's presidency. They are part of a deal Trump struck with the company in December to prevent deeper job cuts at the plant. Go.
Yeah, I mean, that exactly just shows it right there with how he was championing it, with how some people, of course, in centrist cable media was like, oh, he's trying to show that he's actually doing something. Like, are Democrats going to give him credit on this and all this nonsense? And yet, again, it was a fraudulent thing because it was just all about preserving corporations and them getting the breaks that they think they're going to get from him.
Let me also just point out, this is what?
Sorry, I want to make sure they have all the info.
Yeah.
The terminations of the first wave of about 630 planned before the end of the year as the company shifts work to Mexico.
Oh, well, can they get over the wall?
I don't know. That's a good question.
So, this is an underreported study that I think is really important because if you guys know what's happening in Greece, you know that the United States does not want to become Greece. There's a ton of unemployment among the youth. My best friend from high school was just there and was robbed, like, in her Airbnb. Yeah, like, masked guy, like, crazy, all their stuff. Anyway, but that's anecdotal. But apparently, Trump's tax reform plan would push the U.S. below Greece in income inequality. So if you know what's going on in Greece, you know that that's essentially anarchy in the United States. What would happen there? So again, this is from The Guardian. I really encourage you guys to read it, but it would push the U.S. below Greece in the income inequality index. Also, I've read this on actually Vox, but the tax cuts from Trump that he's proposing, the poorest Americans would get $40 in tax breaks. Oh, sounds good. The richest ones, $940,000. So that's what this kind of study is talking about. The income inequality is just going to widen because this isn't about serving America for this piece of poo. It's It's about like ravaging the federal government for his friends and for himself. And in the short term, the rest of us be damned. That's what it is.
Before our phone dies, I just want to get in one last story. If you don't know, the NRA has broken its silence on the murder of Philando Castile. If you don't know, Philando Castile was
months later.
Am I pronouncing his last name right?
Yes.
Yeah. Was an African-American man, another African-American man, essentially assassinated by police officers in America. After this gentleman was acquitted, who killed him, Geronimo Yanez was a police officer in Minnesota. They came out with the official footage showing basically a police officer. I don't know if he had no training or he was just not mentally well. He freaked out when Philando Castile just informed him, which you're supposed to do. Hey, officer, just so you know, I have a gun on me. But the cop had asked him, all right, give me your license and registration. He went to get his gun out, because to get his license and registration, that's what he would have to do. And the officer shot him, I believe, 5 or 6 times.
Mm-hmm.
With his, I don't know if it was his daughter, but it was his girlfriend's 4-year-old daughter in the backseat.
Right. And his girlfriend live streamed the aftermath. You saw him dying in the back seat. So the National Rifle Association, you would think they'd come out against this strongly. Because
they were hypocrites.
Right. So NRA has broken its silence. A Minnesota carry permit holder on Philando Castile, referring to last month's acquittal of Geronimo Yanez, the officer who was charged with second-degree manslaughter, Dana Loesch, who apparently is an NRA spokesperson, in addition to being a Tea Party
NFL Blaze host too, or
yeah, she's with the Blaze. She said, "I don't agree with every single decision." Oh, excuse me. She said she's an NRA spokesperson. I think it's absolutely awful. It's a terrible tragedy that could have been avoided. It's not a tragedy. It is a tragedy, but tragedies give the connotation that it was kind of accidental, right? Like a car accident. What a tragedy. Or somebody dying of cancer at a young age. What a tragedy. Things you don't have control over. This you do have control over. We see it all over the place. She went on to say, I don't agree with every single decision that comes out from courtrooms of America. There are a lot of variables in this particular case, and there were a lot of things that I wish would have been done differently. Do I believe Philando Castile deserved to lose his life over a traffic stop? I absolutely do not. I also think that this is why we have things like NRA Carry Guard, not only to reach out to citizens to go over what to do during stops like this, but also to work with law enforcement so that they understand what citizens are experiencing when they go through stops like this.
Oh my God, they're so blatantly racist. It's unbelievable. Like, they would never say this if it was a white guy with a weapon or the Bundys. Give me a break. It's skin crawling.
This is the thing, like, they only decided to release the statement after weeks of people adding them on social media about how hypocritical they were and how silent they were. If they were such all about Second Amendment rights consistently, how they would have had a press release the minute Philando Castile's murderer did not get any charges whatsoever, and now apparently he's gotten almost $50,000 to leave the police force. The NRA would have just been out there on the front and center on this completely. And it has all the characteristics for them to show them that, hey, we aren't racist. We aren't the people that just only care about white individuals shooting in the forest and shooting animals and being horrible people as they are. But it shows how, again, it's no surprise how what the National Ridiculous Association is and how they will always continue to do these things that only favor them in conservative nutcases who have no thoughts of preserving black people lives overall and treating them as the same. It's just what they're going to do. It's just funny that they actually decided to even release a statement instead of just continuing to ignore it, but it was the drumbeat of how they were being called hypocrites with ignoring it in the first place, but how they thought they were able to want to give this asinine response.
Right.
So yeah.
Alright, we're wrapping up, right? Yeah.
1 second. There's, you should know about that. The officer who was acquitted also just got a $48,000 $500 buyout from the Minnesota Police Department. So in America, if you brutalize people for praying in North Dakota, you're fine, you'll be fine. And if you pretty much assassinate a black man, you'll get $50,000.
Or black women too.
Like Charlena Lyles, in addition to some others. So those are the topics for today. We're going to try to do this more regularly. It seems like you liked it. YouTube.com/TYTPolitics, at Jordan Sheridan on Twitter,
at Emma Vigeland,
and at Andrew Jones. No, my glasses don't have their own Twitter page, but somebody
You're not at Andrew Jones.
Well, okay, I mean, yeah, but okay. At Sluggagels on Twitter. You'll see it on the byline. It's SSLUGGAHJELLS. So you'll see it.
And like I said, one more shameless promo. If you don't know, I'm working on a book and I'm releasing it every chapter.
Just in case you didn't know.
Chapter 2 is out today. It's the most interesting, compelling, and entertaining thing you'll ever read about Trump. I don't feature any of his tweets. It's all about how Trump was created. I have a shocking revelation. It involves Bill Clinton and the 1990s.
Woo!
CorporateConjob.com. Download it now.
Did Bill Clinton kill Seth Rich?
We go.
Shout out to you, Mudcat. I see you, homie. Look at you.